Well, as the chairman of the board of directors for the Auburn Area Chamber, welcome. There's a lot of questions of why we wanted to do an import-export forum, and it really comes down to breaking down barriers. The federal government and our state governments are working hard to open up new markets, to level the playing field by removing tariffs and helping us as the business owners prepare to move our products overseas. And those we're going to hear about today from Congressman Dave Reichert and the efforts there. But there's a lot of perceptions towards importing and exporting, and I think it provides a barrier to opening up new opportunities for businesses. And with new opportunities come new revenue streams, increased production, and jobs. And I think it's important as the Chamber to recognize that for the long-term stability of the Auburn area, jobs are the most important. And we know that jobs in the manufacturing and retail space that equal family wage jobs. So that is why we are here today as a chamber and why we are excited to be providing this opportunity to you. Now, the person that really helped set the stage for me as the chairman to say we need to do this is Mayor Lewis. And as Nancy said, the chamber has a direct partnership with the City of Auburn. And he came to me after visiting Tamba, Japan, as part of the sister city and said, Terry, we have a golden opportunity. And we're going to hear about that golden opportunity with our sister cities that the city has forged relationships with at lunch. But most of all, we want to provide a better business opportunity and climate for our Auburn area businesses. And we feel that now, more than ever, with the economic downturn here at home, we need to look abroad to provide those new opportunities and new revenue sources. So my job now is to introduce the mayor. And Mayor Lewis, he is an icon and a cornerstone for the Auburn area and the city of Auburn. But more. He is really focused on the business community. He's not just focused on what it takes to provide a great community that's livable for all of its citizens. He recognizes that the business community is a key instrument in making that happen. So please help me welcome Mayor Lewis to welcome you some more, and also to introduce Congressman Dave Reichert.
You had to say icon in front of my city council. Do you think I'm going to hear about that just a little bit? First of all, before we start, I have a special guest to introduce, but right now I would like to introduce the members of the city council here. First of all, our Deputy Mayor, Sue Singer. Most senior council member, Rich Wagner. Bill Pelosa. Sean Partridge, Virginia Haugen. I think we even have a council candidate, Wayne Osborne, in here as well. Wayne? I did want to talk to you a bit about this. I have to tell you that for the bankers in the room, I've never been a morning person. They've been pouring coffee into me all morning long. But I was excited to be a part of this effort. This is a chamber-led effort, and it should be. It's not government's place to tell business what to do. It's government's place to set the stage and get out of the way for the business to do business. Now, one of the things that we talk about here, I have to say is, I hope you like the Avenue Theater. The City Council brilliant group of people, entered into a long-term use of this theater. And we're often asked, what's our return on investment? And the answer is, you are. Specifically, you are. This theater is now part of Seattle's comedy tour. There's live theater here. It is a staging point for different events that go on, like Zola's, which is becoming a hotspot for jazz and entertainment, or Oddfellows Cafe, the Bistro, our 1,000-seat theater. When was the last time you were in downtown Auburn? Have you seen the changes going on about how the dramatic start of new businesses is taking place? I like the fact that, and I think it is indicative of what's going on in town, that the Auburn Downtown Association, which has been here for 30 years or more, has changed its name. It is not the Auburn Downtown Association anymore. It's TADA, the Auburn Downtown Association. And we have our director here today as well. Kathleen, you're there someplace in the lights. There you are. We talk about return on investment. We welcome you into the downtown. We give you opportunities. We give the businesses in the downtown an opportunity by your presence, as well as the crowds of 200 or 300 that are coming into this facility during the week and on the weekends. Every time we have something here, we do that to create an opportunity for business. This export-import forum that we're putting on today is all about opportunity. You'll hear more about that at lunch, because there is a unique opportunity here not available in other communities. It is here because of a relationship, but it can only be accomplished with your input. And again, from my perspective, government sets the stage, such as this, and then government gets out of the way. We have that opportunity here, and one of the things that is so exciting for me is having an individual here that understands that. Not only a long-term resident, supporter of the City of Auburn, but someone who recognizes the value of business, really recognizes it, does something about it, is involved in it, and has not just talked about it, but actually accomplished deeds. We have our Congressman Dave Reichert here. He has 37 years of public service. He's in his 4th term as the representative from the 8th Congressional District in Washington. And he serves on the House Ways and Means Committee and Trade and Health. Trade and Health. Trade especially talks about what we're doing here today. Your businesses, specifically, are the backbone of the American economy, and they always have been. Your business people, your employees, are the heart and the soul of our community. For generations, we've had a problem, a perceived problem, and a real one that I've known as well in my 25 years of banking, with the regulation forced upon us so many times by the federal government. But we have allies, we have friends, and we have people that are trying to make a difference for our business community. And one of the ones that's one of the leaders in that effort is our Congressman Dave Reichert.
Well, I think he took care of the icon comment by calling the city council brilliant. So I think you're safe now. I just want to say what a pleasure it is to be here this morning. And this week we've been talking a lot about trade, but before I get into that, with various groups, we've had the opportunity to talk about the current trade agreements that hopefully will be coming to the House floor soon for a vote. But I have to mention that every time I come to Auburn, I just live up the hill above the Green River, up on the Southeast Lake Holmes Road area. It just always brings back memories. So I graduated, however, from Kent Meridian High School, but We beat Auburn my senior year, by the way, in football. It was the most important time. But I remember, driving to Auburn with my fellow football, basketball teammates to the roller rink where they had Friday night dances, and also the Elks Club here in Auburn had dances for the high school students. So I attended those events. And then this theater, I was just talking to Pete a little bit about the theater. I remember my daughter in high school she's a performer, singer, and actress in her high school years, and performed in this theater. And I thought it was this theater, but it looked a lot different back then. They had the tables, etc., and not these folding out chairs. So a lot of memories in Auburn for us. Our family has been here supporting small businesses. My wife and daughters especially supporting the businesses in Auburn. So my purpose today is to really just give you a little perspective on the federal government and the House of Representatives and where we're headed with trade. But I want to start with how I got on Ways and Means. Jennifer Dunn, as you know, was on the Ways and Means Committee when she retired. And as soon as I won, Jennifer said to me, "Get on the Ways and Means Committee. You've got to get on. It's so important for Washington State." And for my first 4 years, Homeland Security, Transportation, which was also key, is also key for us here and connected with trade and the success of businesses, and then the Science Committee. So finally, after 4 years, able to secure a spot on the Ways and Means Committee, I passed over a ranking member spot on the Oversight Subcommittee. And I did that so I could ensure that I had a spot on the Trade Subcommittee. That's how important it is for Washington State to have someone on that committee speak with a loud voice on how important trade is, not only for us in Washington State, but all across this country. So we've been really engaged in trade from the beginning of my service here in 2005, but when we were able to secure that spot on the Trade Subcommittee, we became more and more engaged and have been recently pushing for especially the Korean trade agreement, because that is Washington State's fourth largest trading partner. So as we've been working toward, and I've visited Korea, I've visited Colombia, we can talk a little bit about that, haven't been to Panama yet, but those three agreements are so essential for us to have a vote on and get passed and move forward on. So as we've been outspoken on trade and the benefits of trade and the jobs they create, we were asked to serve on the President's Export Council. So I'm one of two Republicans serving on the Export Council. Pat Tiberi from Ohio is the other Republican. We've had 3 meetings at the White House. 2 have been attended by the President. The others by Hillary Clinton, Ray LaHood, Gary Locke has been at all of them. So the good thing is Gary and I have known each other for a long, long time. So when we go to these meetings, we get a chance to it's Gary and Dave, and you know Washington State, you are the governor, you get trade, I get trade, let's make it happen. And I have to tell you, Gary's been a pleasure to work with back in Washington, D.C. in his job as secretary. Of course, we all know he's moving on to, as soon as he gets confirmed by the Senate, he'll be the ambassador to China, which will be another benefit for us. So as we've looked at the trade agreements over the first 2 years, not much really happened in our committee on trade. And as soon as Dave Camp took charge, he said, we're going to push for these trade agreements. So we started working with Ambassador Han, who is the ambassador to the United States from Korea, working out of Washington, D.C. We forged a great friendship and partnership with him. And finally and eventually, we were able to go to Korea a couple of weeks ago and had the opportunity to meet with some of their assemblymen and women, so their equivalent of our congressional delegation. And I have to say it was really interesting to hear their perspective on trade. And they call their parties the Democratic Party, and it's labeled the opposition party because they're in the minority, and the Republican Party is the ruling party. They're not quite so, we're a little bit more polite with majority-minority. They like to say we're the rulers and you're not. So, and it's just interesting to watch the dynamics that take place there. I was the only Republican on the trip. I was with Secretary Locke, Jim McDermott, and Charles Rangel, and the other Democrat I came with was Joe Crowley from New York. So there were some interesting dynamics that took place there too. We can talk about that later. But mostly good. It was really a great opportunity to interact with them as well as our Korean friends. But you know, they have the same concerns we have when it comes to trade. Their people are concerned about jobs being shipped out of Korea because they don't have that many opportunities there. Their natural resource, as was pointed out to us over and over and over, is their people, and everything else is imported into their country. So they expressed themselves very clearly and in some angry words every now and then from one or two of the members that we're concerned about having a trade agreement with America. We're not sure it's the best thing for Korea. But the vast majority of their delegation, and I think their people, as we talked to some of their students also, their message was, we want this agreement. It is vital to Korea in so many ways. One, they see the jobs that will be created not only in Korea, but also the benefit. It's a win-win as they see it for the United States and Korea. The U.S. Chamber has estimated that if we don't do this, we're going to lose 380,000 jobs if we stand back and wait, because other countries, as you know, are moving forward. The Korean agreement, the Colombian agreement, the Panama agreement are all agreements that essentially lower the tariffs for U.S. goods going into those countries. They already have the benefit of exporting their products to the United States of America, essentially tariff-free. So the sticking points, as you know, for the Korean agreement were the automobile issue and the beef issue. And there was a faction of the Korean Assembly that were very upset by the fact that the agreement was renegotiated. They were also embarrassed and expressed to us that they lost some face the last time this agreement came to their attention on their legislative floor. They passed the agreement and the United States didn't do anything. So their position now is, we're not doing anything until you do something. So they're waiting. And what we're looking at is hopefully before July 1, we see Korea, the Korean agreement come to the floor for a vote, and we see the Colombian agreement come and the agreement with Panama. Our hope is, and the words and signals that we're getting from the White House and from Ambassador Kirk, that we will see all three agreements before July 1. As you all know in this room, the European Union has already, their agreement will take effect on July 1st. So if we don't get moving real quick, we are going to lose more market share, and more market share. Their companies and representatives will come into Korea and they will make their agreements, and we will be shut out, and we'll have to wait until however long those agreements are good for to come back in and renegotiate. So in the meanwhile, we're sitting on the sidelines waiting and losing jobs and losing opportunities. I think all of you know that, you know, the whole key here is sell American. And for Auburn, it's sell Auburn, I know. But, you know, countrywide, it's sell American. But you can't sell all American in America. You've got only 5% of the market existing here in the United States. 95% of our market is outside this country. And that's where we've got to cultivate our future prospects. And so with Korea, I think we have a great opportunity there. They see the economic benefits to their country. They see the economic benefits to our country. They see that, you know, a lot of people don't talk about this, but the national security issues connected with that friendship and partnership. Intellectual property rights, for example, is another one. We had a discussion with their committee of jurisdiction, so both D's and R's together on their side and on our side, a discussion about intellectual property rights and the fact that there's very strong language in the Korean agreement, and for that matter, the same language in the agreements with Colombia and Panama protecting intellectual property. And what message does that send to China? Well, the Korean assemblymen and women immediately said, it's going to tell China, it's going to put them on the line, it's going to make them see and understand if they don't begin to honor intellectual property rights and begin to hold people accountable to the laws and make laws that hold people accountable, then they're going to start to lose market share, because Korea wants to lead the way in that regard. People will trust Korea and the people of Korea not to steal intellectual property rights, and they will trust the government of Korea to hold people accountable and responsible for those who are thinking about or have committed theft in the intellectual property rights realm. So now I think it sends a clear message to some of those countries that don't think it's important, and Korea certainly sees that. So when it comes to these three agreements, how they will be packaged it's always been the question that we've been asked on Ways and Means. No one seems to know the answer to that yet. We don't know if Korea will come alone, and then a week later Colombia will come, and then a week later Panama shows up, or we don't know if they'll send all three of them up at the same time. They're not sure if they can package them all in the same bill. My thought would be on that probably not. We want to see a separate vote. I've been appointed as the whip for the Republican Party on the Ways and Means Committee on the Korean agreement. We're going to have the votes for this one. It's going to pass. The Korean agreement, I'm pretty confident will pass. When it gets to Colombia, the issues around, because the beef and the car issues have been addressed, but when it gets to Colombia, the issues around human rights and labor protection is still a concern for some members of Congress. Even though Colombia has gone the extra mile, has gone above and beyond what we've asked them to do, I believe it's time for us to pass the Colombian agreement. Because I do think, and there are a lot of people in Congress who believe that, when you create a partnership with a country, you not only exchange products, but you also share values. You share your background, your laws, your rules, your thoughts, your ideas on how to build and grow government, how to treat people, how to build a labor force, how to treat labor fairly. If you say to those that you think are mistreating employees, we're not going to do anything with you until we don't want to talk to you until you get your act together. I just think that's the wrong way to approach this thing. We need to be inclusive. We need to be. We're going to learn from them also at the same time. So Colombia's issues, I think, will be a little bit tougher to overcome. There is some language that's being discussed right now that's addressing some of those issues, and I'm hopeful that those who believe that there's still some civil rights issues there and human rights issues there, that the language that we now have that will be approved and contained in the Colombian agreement will bring us forward, hopefully far enough to pass that agreement. And in the Panama agreement, the banking issue is the concern there, and I think that's been addressed. So we should see that going forward. So we're hoping July 1, we'll have seen those agreements. That doesn't give us much time now. We're, as you know, the end of May, and looking forward through June. And we're hoping that we begin to see some action from the White House, and those agreements are presented to us. So, the thing that we know about these trade agreements, here's the biggest issue I think that we have to overcome. And I hear this over and over again. And all of you in this room can be of great assistance in addressing this issue, and that is educating our own population. And the Koreans recognize this too, in understanding that there is a huge benefit to us in being connected to other countries around the world in an economic partnership like a trade agreement. It does create jobs, and yes, there is concern, I know by some, that jobs are created overseas. But if you look ahead to the world ahead for our children and our grandchildren, this globe is going to shrink. It is going to become more and more global, more and more dependent upon each other, each country dependent upon each other. Jobs will begin to blend and meld together across this globe. Right now, one of the big concerns in a trade agreement is identifying the country of origin. And there is great difficulty as you negotiate these trade agreements in deciding, for example, pick just a high-tech product that moves from the U.S. to China to Japan to Korea to India to Israel, and they each have a component. And so you've got to figure out who has the measure right now is 53%. If 53% of the product is made in the United States, then that's the country of origin, and that's the exporter. But it's going to become harder and harder to figure out, and I've talked to the negotiators on the Korean agreement, it's going to become almost impossible. We're almost at that point now to figure out the country of origin. So we need to get, we want to sell American. But in today's world, the reality is that sell American means there are some other parts made from other countries in those American products that are 53% U.S. country of origin. And I also want to mention, too, that there are countries, and I know Auburn has a great relationship with her sister city in Japan. And I've met with the Japanese delegations in Washington, D.C., as they come and say, don't forget us, and that Auburn's not forgetting Japan. We are not going to forget Japan, especially now in their time of need, and how important it is for us to be engaged with Japan and helping them rebuild their economic engine. And at the same time, they can be of so much help and assistance to us. As I learned in visiting Children's Hospital, they have been to the Toyota plant, the Children's Hospital officials, and learned how to run that hospital more efficient through watching the Japanese build Toyotas. So we have so much to learn from our neighbors in Japan and across this world, and so much to teach and give to them, and especially now that they're trying to rebuild their country. So, and Auburn can be seen and will be seen as a leader there, and I'm happy to be a part of the City of Auburn, happy to be your representative, happy to be involved in the Korean agreement. And we will look forward to the final passage. And I don't know if you wanted me to take a question or two, or just wave goodbye, or whatever you want me to. Sure, okay. They told me to feel free. So I do. Do you have any questions? No? I think I tried to cover everything. Okay. Yep. Yes, sir.
The question is, when you try to license the technology, the biggest problem is intellectual property. And that's a big barrier.
Yes.
In exporting and creating jobs. So again, you're trying to address that issue. And we need more protection so that we can export export products also, because universal dealing is also a problem in some of those countries. So if somebody can address those issues, we can export things manufactured here, but the intellectual property is not secure.
Right.
There's always a problem with universal dealing. We try to be all inside the United States.
You're absolutely right. And just talking to about 2 months ago, I had an opportunity to meet with Steve Ballmer. And just in China, out of $70 billion that they do in business, they're losing $10 billion in intellectual property rights theft. And when you think about IPR, you automatically go to the tech side. You're thinking technology. I mentioned yesterday at a trade meeting that there was a representative from Almond Roca Company at one of the meetings that I was attending here a few months ago, and he held up a box of Almond Roca, and he says, "This is not made in Tacoma. This is a Chinese knockoff box of Almond Roca. So please check the label on your." No, you'll be safe here. But isn't that? I mean, it surprised me because it touches every product. Even the ape company here that builds the machine that, if you may have read yesterday, was successful in driving the largest piling, 40 feet in diameter in China. They had problems with some of their intellectual property rights connected with their machine that drives that piling, and they were able to resolve some of those issues. So every product could be a victim of IPR, and you're right, it's one that we should focus on because we can lose a lot of money in that regard, and it makes us a little nervous about dealing with some countries. Right. Other comments or questions? Yes.
I wonder if you could say a couple of things about how any particular outcome for the debt ceiling or the debt might affect trade in the future for the U.S.
Well, I think pretty obviously. So we have until, I guess Timothy Geithner said now 2nd of August. We're right up against the debt ceiling today at $14.2 trillion. But they have some they have some money set aside, and they have some budget techniques that they can use up till August 2nd. So the city council knows these budgeting techniques. They're whispering about it right now. Yeah, Mayor, I don't know if the mayor overheard that. Yeah. So what of course the political move here is to say, okay, if the president wants to increase the debt ceiling by $2 trillion, then what we want to ensure and we want to require is that there's a $2 trillion cut in spending that would accompany that debt ceiling rise. So you'll see this debate go back and forth. I would be absolutely surprised, just as we were I would have been if the government had shut down. I'll be shocked if we let this debt ceiling issue slide and the government default on some of their payments. That's not going to happen, I don't think. I could be totally wrong, but it's, my humble opinion is that we'll find a way to get this thing fixed before August 2nd, and we won't have to worry about the U.S. defaulting on their bills. It would be disastrous for us. I do want to mention briefly that if you look at just the Korean agreement, the benefits immediately. I mean, there's almost immediate market access to things that we are making here in Washington State. One is the aerospace industry. The tariffs on aerospace products, for the most part, are eliminated almost immediately, and then some take a period of about 5 years and they disappear. In the technology world, the same thing occurs. But where I think we really gain a foothold in Korea is in the services arena. And a lot of times people don't think about the services, the banking, the attorneys, insurance companies, financial institutions, those sorts of services that we provide here. We can begin to build those. And this is really one of the things that the Korean assemblymen and women mentioned to us that they were a little bit nervous about, because their companies now use the services that they provide in their own city of Seoul. And now they'll have competition, which, of course, some members felt it was a good thing, and others were a little bit nervous because they felt, okay, the point I made earlier, we could lose there could be some Korean businesses that suffer from this open access to the United States, and therefore a loss of some jobs by some Korean citizens. So we understand the concern there. We understand that concern from the people here in Washington State and in the City of Auburn. But the overall benefit for us is going to far, I think, exceed our expectations. And I think that people will have other opportunities for different jobs. Jobs are going to look different in 10 to 20 years from now. Our grandkids and great-grandkids, in my case, will have much different opportunities than we've had during our lifetime. And I want to thank all of you for really being leaders in this arena, especially the mayor, in reaching out to Japan. I just think that's it's an excellent thing that you're doing. The City of Auburn is doing. I have a son who owns his own business. I have a daughter who owns her own business. My son-in-law has his own business. I have a brother that has his own business. So I'm really hearing from them. Now, I've been fortunate enough I went from the Air Force to the Sheriff's Office to Congress, so I haven't had to mortgage my home, my properties to make my business succeed and stick my neck out. That's what you do as small businessmen and women. We also know and recognize that you're providing 85% of the jobs in Washington State and across this country. And you are the people, the small businesses are the ones that we really need to get engaged more in trade. And I know that my son is on the internet, is now beginning to ship his product overseas to Europe. So that's the future. And he has doubled his business. He's hired a couple additional people just by expanding his business on the internet. So congratulations, my hat off to all of you, and thank you for having me here today to share a little bit about what's happening in the federal government. And last note, if you need anything, if you have any questions at all about any of the trade agreements, or you need some assistance in any way with your business or questions about trade, don't hesitate to call our office. Sue Foy in the back, our district director, is standing by, just waiting for your phone call, and Tom Young, our deputy director. We just want to be of service and help Auburn be as successful as they can be. So thank you all, and have a great conference. Thank you.